Hello and welcome. This podcast episode is focusing on cybersecurity for the logistics and manufacturing sectors. Today's panelists are Tracy Jones, who is a cybercrime detective with the South East Regional Organised Crime Unit. Hello, Tracy. And then we've got Matt Clifton-Bowley, Head of Sales with UK Pick and Pack. Hello, Matt.
Hi, Chris.
And we have Danielle Healy, who's the Memberships and Services Advisor with the Cyber Resilience Centres. Hello, Danielle.
Hi, Chris. Thank you for having me.
So let's kick off with the questions then. What makes this sector so attractive to cyber criminals? And I think we'll probably throw that one out to Matt to start off with, as you're in the sector. So can I ask your opinion on that one?
Yeah, I mean, it may come as a bit of a surprise to learn that the transport and logistics sector actually ranks second in the list of industries most affected by cybercrime worldwide. But if you look at how the industry's changed in recent years, it is now much more tempting for cyber criminals to try and infiltrate and get in there. The logistics sector is one of the largest and most profitable industries in the world. Things have changed a lot over the last couple of years, as I say. It's now much more attractive for highly organised criminals for financial gains, where things like looking at shipping containers, where we used to move those over from China. It used to cost a couple of $1,000s to move those. With things like Brexit and fuel costs going up, we're now looking in the region of $15,000 to $20,000 per container to move it over. So with people being able to impersonate and pretend they are somebody else or somewhere else, there's a lot more temptation there for those people to pretend that they are the person doing the shipping from the other end, because it's a lot harder to trace. And so, you know, they could be asking for vast sums of money to be moved over to them so that, they can infiltrate your business in that way. And also technology has changed a lot over the last few years. I've been with this company about 6 years now. And when I joined, everything was very, very basic. In terms of what they had in here in terms of security and systems. Over the last few years, we've moved a lot more now to making sure that we've got more cloud-based systems that are protected not just by our own internal infrastructure, but external as well. Not having things on spreadsheets, not having it on easy to access shared drives and things like that. So we share a lot of data as well with various companies. You know, we're a company of 50 staff down on the south coast, but we're part of a network that runs through the whole of the UK. So we're constantly pushing information about customers backwards and forwards to many other customers and potential suppliers out there. And so we can make sure that our own internal security is good, but it's how we're dealing with the other companies as well and what their sort of cyber security setup is.
Sounds a fast-paced environment. I can imagine as operation is you've streamlined so many things to, I guess, squeeze all those profits that if you had a cyber attack, the impact would be quite devastating, because I know quite a few businesses operate at this just-in-time process, don't they, where everything happens at a certain time date.
Definitely. I mean, a lot of what we do with the fulfillment side of things as well is, we're sending out parcels and packages to people with cut-off times of midday, 1 o'clock. So, it's all happening very, very fast. Jobs are being booked for the next day and the next day and the next day. So, a few of the examples that we'll talk about in a little while are where things are happening so quickly that somebody doesn't read an email or look at something close enough. And then, we can come unstuck in ways like that.
I mean, that leads quite nicely on to our next question, where what type of cyber attacks do businesses in these sectors face? And you've mentioned it, haven't you? The cost of shipping products around the world makes impersonation crime or impersonation of a business or a person quite attractive because of the money they can make. So I know from a cyber point of view, that talks about business email compromise, whether you're also using text messages or phone scams. But Tracy, do you see some of the cybercrime that gets reported? What's the common cyber attacks that businesses are facing at the moment?
There's a vast range, really, but it's surprising that the attacks tend to cross all different size of the businesses. So you can be from a small business right through to massive infrastructure businesses. So we often get reports of ransomware, malware attacks, phishing attacks. We get a large number of business compromised email attacks. So some very large petrochemical companies were targeted some while ago, and it was quite simply that they had created an email address that mimicked the true email address, and submitted fake invoices for millions of pounds, and those were paid. So it doesn't matter what size of your business, you can be, a victim of such an attack, and even down to some. Obviously, everyone will know about the text and different phone scams that are going on, but we do see, for targeting small and medium-sized businesses, quite a large number of card not present frauds. So quite simply, where fraudsters have obtained compromised card details and they're targeting businesses, paying for goods with these compromised cards. Obviously, goods are getting shipped out, and then it's only a month or two later when the original true card holders are reporting fraud on their accounts, the banks are then doing chargebacks. So there's just a vast number of attacks, some of which are reported to us and many of them aren't.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, some of the figures I see, only about 30% of businesses do actually report cybercrime to law enforcement, and there's many reasons for that, isn't there? I mean, some people don't even realise it is a crime and they just phone up IT and the IT help desk fix things. Others do speak to legal departments who suggest we don't need to talk about this because this will have an impact on business continuity and our share price, and they'd rather just fix it and crack on because they don't want the branding or reputational damage. But yeah, business email compromise is a problem. You can pretend to be someone else, and then if you don't do the due diligence and you come around to paying the bill, the money's left the business, and then you get an angry supplier or vendor phoning up saying, hey, when are you actually going to pay, or when are the product's going to arrive? And this is the first you hear about it. And then the complaints department, I guess, get a lot of complaints, don't they?
I think Tracy's right where she's saying about the size of the business, because we've had exactly that recently, where our accounts team was sent an email from our MD. It was somebody mimicking, saying you need to move this £50,000 or whatever the sum of money was to a different bank account for me. But obviously we're quite aware in the company now of these things going on. So, that definitely was something that could have gone a lot worse than it did. But I think also for things like Dropbox and Google now, they're so easy for people to share viruses and ransomware and malware and all things like that. And it can look such an inconspicuous link that, again, people can just quickly click on one and download a file unknowingly.
Yeah, and I certainly know that phishing emails is still the most successful method of delivering harm and chaos to a company. Like you said, they can pretend to be someone they're not. They can be delivering ransomware and malware unwittingly, and you click on it and it opens. So, I mean, again, this is flowing quite nicely today, isn't it? What are the things that you put in place in manufacturing and logistics to try and prevent all of those things from happening?
Yeah, I think the number one thing we do is training of our staff, really. We run quite regular updates. We've got internal policies as well that all new employees have to read through and make sure they understand about the IT usage within our business. Making sure that people are aware that there could be an email that looks like it comes from somebody, but if you've got any doubts, then just make sure you flag it up to a senior manager or somebody that works in the IT department here so that we can look at it. But we've also employed an external IT company. I know a lot of companies do have people a bit like myself internally that know certain bits, but also having that external people that can jump in and help at any time, because obviously I have annual leave throughout the year, so I'm not always on site. I know people do try and ring my mobile anyway to get hold of me, but having this third party there that we can call on as well. And they've also put a lot of things in place on our internal network, like firewalls, which they're constantly monitoring as well. So it's not another thing that I have to worry about all the time, because I can call on their expertise whenever I need to.
Yeah, that's good. Anything you can add on that, Tracy? Certainly the security training. I know we do deal with businesses that haven't got any security training, and I know that the Information Commissioner's Office, when it comes to that dreaded GDPR issue, some of the recommendations are, and best practice, that new employees start with a business that they should have cybersecurity training within 1 month of arriving, and then there should be an annual refresher program in place for the workforce. But do you see that the difference between some companies that have security awareness training and those that may not have it?
Yeah, definitely 100%. We can see the companies that should have a very secure system, however, that still get attacked, and we do see a difference between those that really have very little or nothing at all. I do think there should be something formal for all businesses that they would need to sign up to, just to even give the basic level of protection. It's not necessarily just for their business, but also for their customers, because often we'll find that criminals will insert themselves into one business and then be able to pivot through into other businesses, and that has a massive ongoing effect, not only for their own business, but for others too. But yeah, I think that some fairly simple, straightforward guidance could be taken up by companies. However, we're all human beings, and more often than not, attacks are most effective because they have been allowed to happen by us as individuals, by clicking on an email that we thought we were expecting, and actually it turns out to be a phishing email. So I don't think you're ever going to get completely around it, because we are humans at the end of the day. But I think there should be some kind of formal guidance that companies that set up should actually have to abide to.
Yeah, and we see certainly after a cyber incident, and there's a difference between a breach and an incident, that 26% of companies actually give their staff training after the incident. Now, if you gave the training before the incident, you probably wouldn't be looking at an incident. And we always try and compare this in the conventional world, that we don't wait till the building's on fire to do a fire drill. We do fire drills every week. And then when something does happen, if it's something that we can manage it and we can put the fire out with the tools and the training we provided our workforce, that fire is a minor incident, isn't it? And again, we do first aid training, so we don't wait until people are having medical incidents. We do first aid training so we can prevent it from getting worse. So yeah, training. I can't really label that enough on that one. We can talk about supply chain attacks, and I know we hear a lot about supply chain attacks in the news at the moment, week on week, but not everyone actually understands what a supply chain attack. Well, it is a cyber attack that seeks to damage any organisation, and they may not directly go to that organisation, but they would use a less secure element within the supply chain. So if we took the manufacturing industry, if you attacked the petrol pumps, for instance, that are maybe on site at a factory, it will be a couple of days before all the lorries, I guess, or all of the generators would run out of petrol or diesel. And then that company's brought to its knees. Now, it could have a plan B, couldn't it? And it would go and buy fuel from an alternative site. But if it didn't have that plan B in place, then slowly but surely you can see all the operations within that business grinding to a halt. Now, a supply chain attack, you could hit lots of different businesses that rely on the same provider of that service. So if you took all of the fuel pumps out, you would knock quite a lot of haulage companies offline within minutes, wouldn't you? Well, not minutes, but by the time they end their fuel tank. Is that something which not you personally experienced, Matt, but the sort of the processes in place that you shore up your supply chain to make your providers a little bit safer, so it doesn't have any impact on your business?
Yeah, definitely. And we found out, we've had a lot of different companies where we've looked at just having, one fuel supplier or one supplier of this or that, but actually by having lots now, if one part of the supply chain was hit, we've got other parts that we can then move on to and use those as well, rather than, to use the old adage, putting all of our eggs in one basket. But we have found that again, certainly the 6 years I've been in the industry, the logistics industry, it is run more by older families or older people that are sort of handing it on to their children as well, and they're not necessarily so as aware of the possible risks that could happen to their business, but also the advances in technology. So everybody's got a mobile phone now, which they're bringing on site. They connect to our network, and then they go off site and they're connecting to another network. Probably half of our business now have got laptops, which they again bring on site. They download bits of information onto that could be seen as sensitive. They take their laptop home or they take it out with them, and people can get onto these a lot easier these days. But also we've recently put in a new vehicle tracking system. So, cyber criminals could even get onto those types of systems now and be able to track where all of our vehicles are. And because it's got a minute by minute GPS map update, they can see exactly where our vehicles are. And again, all of our drivers have had training, but some of the drivers, when they go on long haul jobs, they're out for a week or so at a time, and they're stopping in truck stops. And we've got cameras on all the vehicles as well. And, we've had recordings where people have tried to break into the vehicles at night, not necessarily knowing what's on them, but with technology now, because we put what's on the load and things onto the system, cyber criminals hitting those systems and things could potentially find out what is on our vehicles and where it's going, and not to want to be too much like the Fast and Furious, but intercept them on the way to their location where they're dropping off. And so, we have to be a lot more streamlined and a lot more aware of the potential issues that could face us as a business these days.
Yeah, it's adding all those different products and services to make your business more efficient for you, make the computers work for you rather than you working for the computers, because it's going to save you time and money, and like you said, improve security. But with all of the necessary systems that you add on, it's just following the instructions and make sure you get the privacy settings and the security settings set up correctly, which kind of leads us on again. Danielle, how's the Cyber Resilience Centre? How can we work with businesses across the region, especially manufacturing and logistics sectors, to improve their cyber security?
I mean, manufacturing has a lot of considerations when it comes to cybersecurity. We've talked around supply chain being one of them, outsourced IT, risk, policies, awareness of staff, all of which we can support you with at the Cyber Resilience Centre. We meet with you to understand your business in more detail, how you work, and guide you with the help of NCSC. We have a free core membership that includes helpful resources such as the NCSC Small Business Guide, the NCSC 10 Steps to Cybersecurity. And, we can help you understand what things you could be taking into consideration. And from there, support and guide you throughout that journey.
Good stuff there. Good stuff. I know we've covered off security training, but in relation to a cyber attack, we then have an instant plan. Are there any top tips, Tracy, that you would give to a company in relation to how to manage a cyber attack? How would they have that in their training? I know we spoke about the fire drill example earlier, but any tips that you've picked up that would help minimize disruption of a cyber attack?
I think basically it's actually putting down on paper a plan and sharing that with all your staff so that you know exactly what the plan is going to be if you do suffer a cyber attack. It's important to be able to, for your staff to identify exactly what type of attack it actually is, and obtain as much detail as quickly as possible in order to mitigate any additional problems, so that you can siphon off if it's one infected device, or do you have to close down your whole network? How much is it going to impact your business? Is it something that you can simply do by taking that specific device offline? So it's very important, I think, to make sure that whatever your plans, and each business is going to have their own risk plan, is to make sure that is shared with all the staff so they know exactly what to do in the event of an attack, so that mitigation can be put in place. And the prevention of the spread of any malware, etc., that might have been placed onto a device. It's really, really important to share that with your individual staff from the bottom up, really. Although, however, I do say from the bottom up, it's often the top level, the highest level staff members, where we do see that they're not always thinking about the attacks, and actually they're the weak link often in an attack. So the managing director of a company, etc., often gets lots of phishing emails, and they're the ones that release the malware onto the devices. So it is a top-down, bottom-up exercise, making sure that all staff are trained, so they know exactly what to do. They can identify a social engineering attack, for instance, or a phishing, an email phishing attack. So it's making sure that your staff understands what it is, so that they can understand how to deal with it when they've got it.
That's a good point. It's having the correct processes in place to look after your technology and your people. And then when the inevitable happens, because I always used to talk about if your business was involved in a cyber attack, now I kind of talk about when your business is involved in a cyber attack, that your people know how to respond accordingly. And I guess that moves on to an incident response plan that most businesses should have. I guess, Danielle, any comments on how an incident response plan would definitely benefit any size of business?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you consider that 19% of staff lost time with dealing with a breach, and that 23% needed new measures to stop future attacks, an incident response plan is perfect for that, because it helps you minimize the impact of the cyber attack. It provides a process that will help any organization, not just, manufacturing and engineering, for example. It helps you respond in an efficient way in the event of a cyber attack. And, we've created a response plan for anyone to use. It's on our website of www.secrc.co.uk, and you are welcome to use it. But once you have that incident response template and you filled it out, if you want guidance on that, is this right? Have I filled this in correctly? That's why we're here. So we can help you throughout this whole process.
Thank you very much for that. I know our listeners today are going to be gaining some valuable tips from what you've all said and the contributions you've given today. I guess a final one tip from all of you, if you have one. Matt, final closure statement.
Yeah, I mean, for us, again, it was we've recently updated our policies again, because I'm sure, like most businesses, we've got a lot of people working from home now. So, just making sure that they're not just their business networks, but the networks their people are connecting to from home as well. There's some sort of security in there as well, so that the virus or the attack might not happen internally, but there are so many extra avenues now getting into the businesses and the servers. Just making sure that you're constantly training and updating your people every time a new scenario comes along, just so that they're aware of anything that could potentially happen.
Marvelous stuff. Tracy, top tip?
Yeah, I suppose from my perspective, being obviously involved in law enforcement, is provide, when you report to action fraud, and then subsequently an officer makes contact with you, provide as much detail about the type of attack, who it's impacted, how many it's impacted, as much detail as you possibly can, so that we can assist in that process and try and secure the evidence that we will need to try and identify the suspects, and then deal with a successful prosecution.
Some good stuff there. And Danielle, last tip of the day.
Contact us at secrc.co.uk/inquiries. I sound like one of them adverts, don't I? But in other words, get in contact, because I'm lovely to talk to, and you can be the judge of that, really. But to be honest, we're here to help. So just give us a shout.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. And to everyone listening and yourselves, Merry Christmas and stay safe.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.